The death toll from Friday's oil pipeline blast in the port city of Qingdao in Shandong province has risen to 55, with over 130 injured. State news agency Xinhua reported that the pipeline, which belongs to China's largest oil refiner, state-owned Sinopec, ruptured at 3 a.m. It leaked oil into the city's drainage system for a quarter of an hour or so before the supply was shut off. Workers were dispatched to clean up the spill, but several hours later, at around 10:30 a.m. on Friday, there were two large explosions. These tore up roads, tossed cars into the air, smashed windows and damaged buildings. Oil seeped into the sea and about 18,000 residents were evacuated following the explosions. The head of Sinopec, Chengyu, apologised for the accident on Saturday. Authorities said the oil had leaked into underground utility pipes, which may explain the power of the blasts. Chinese President Xi Jinping visited some of the injured on Sunday. He called for increased safety awareness and warned that any individuals or companies found responsible would face severe punishment. As might be expected, the online community has not been slow to react to the disaster, and to find out exactly what's being said, let's head over now to our researcher, Julia Liu. So, Julia, Xinhua has also pointed out that since 2010 there have been no less than 6 major accidents involving Chinese petrochemical companies like Sinopec. But the loss of life and devastation make this one particularly awful. What's the initial reaction been over the last couple of days?
Well, as you can imagine, a mixture of sympathy for the dead and injured and their loved ones, and also quite a bit of anger at how something like this could happen. Well, this poster 最里牵强 on QQ.com has no doubt that negligence has played a part. And he says, well, so many innocent lives sacrificed and so much irreparable damage done to families, all because of the authorities' dereliction of duty. Well, this poster on QQ.com is typical of many net users who aren't waiting for investigation results to blame the state-owned company that owned the pipe, well, Sinopec. Well, and he says, well, the company knows nothing about professional ethics and social responsibility, just how to fritter away money extravagantly. And I should just point out that while no official cause for the accident has been determined, while Chinese media have been reporting widely on breaches of safety precautions and mistakes in the way the initial leak was handled.
Okay, then, so what sort of problems are these that are being highlighted by either the media or indeed by net users?
Well, for a start, many net users feel this was an accident waiting to happen. Well, this poster Xi Shujing on Sina.com says the occurrence rate of oil spills in China is much higher than that in developed countries. Well, one reason is that many of pipelines are too old. And in fact, according to information released by Sinopec, the line where the leak occurred has been in use since 1986. And another concern being aired widely is how close the pipeline was to built-up areas and the fact that it's overlapped municipal utility pipelines. Xu Shaolin 827 points out that this is far from unusual. As the urbanization expands, areas where pipelines are located can become busy built-up areas with residential buildings. Potential safety hazards like this exist all over the country. And this poster can't see how this can be allowed to happen. Crude oil pipelines must be situated away from residential areas. It's common sense and a basic rule in their design. And the media have actually reported that a company identified the pipes as a potential risk and planned to reroute them in 2011, but the work never got underway. A poster on QQ.com has this to add. The pipelines were laid under what was empty land, but there was rapid economic and real estate development, while issues of municipal construction and safety concerns were ignored.
Now, initially, Julia, it seems that this was just an oil leak, not a great situation, but not that unusual. But what about all those hours that occurred between the leak first being discovered and shut off and then these devastating explosions? Surely more precautions could have been taken in terms of moving people away or warning people. It seems that there wasn't any sort of great sense of urgency.
Well, in fact, that's a question lots of net users are asking too. And it was actually 7 hours between the failure in the pipeline appeared and the blasts. Well, this comment is on bjnews.com. Well, it seems that both Sinopec and the local government were only concerned with the oil spill, but they didn't issue warnings or evacuate people living nearby. And the poor residents were left defenseless. This is a major reason why the blast caused so much death and destruction. And another poster is blunter. Well, a lot of casualties could have been avoided over those 7 hours. Human life is the most important thing. It can't be treated so cavalierly. And An Hua from Guangdong is even more direct in his accusations. Well, they only care about making money, not about safety or human life. They think the worst that can happen is they will have to pay some compensation for those who died. And of course, they have plenty of money.
Now, when the Sinopec chief executive, that gentleman, Mr. Chengyu, apologized for the accident on Saturday, he said the company would give a thorough explanation to the public. What sort of explanation are net users hoping for?
Well, from what I can see, most net users feel the priority now is to deal with the aftermath of the accident and look after the victims. But many like Bi Dianlong on Xinhua.com also want prompt answers. And he says, the earlier the cause of the accident and those responsible are determined, the easier it will be to appease people's anger. While BONTV has concerns about the response from the entire industry, not just Sinopec. And he says, every time there's a major accident, we hear of corporate overhauls, those responsible being held accountable, safety inspections being stepped up. But we still have these accidents happening again and again. Well, I can't help wondering whether the companies ever really look at their practices and whether investigation ever really gets to the bottom of it all.
Okay, finally, Julia, going back to something President Xi said when he spoke over the weekend. He said there'd be no distinction in the treatment of the accident and the aftermath just because it was a state-owned company that was involved. Do net users feel that that's what will happen?
Well, there are some doubts, I have to say. This poster Song Wenzhou feels there are different rules in terms of accountability. If a private company was behind such loss of life and state interests, the company would be history. The heads and shareholders would lose everything, including social standing and credibility. But for monopoly state-owned enterprises like this, the worst punishment is just a few officials losing their jobs. And referring to decisions on reform taken at the recent third Platinum Policy meeting, he adds, well, I really hope the reforms to state-owned companies that the party recently promised won't remain just empty words. And finally, I have this maybe over-optimistic hope from a poster called Lin Xiaoyun. Well, may this incident bring all Chinese corporations to their senses so that they rectify their mistakes immediately and use their progress in the future to make up for their loss.
Okay, thanks for that, Julia. And that was China Tech researcher Julia Liu with some of the online reaction to that disastrous explosions in the city of Qingdao due to a pipeline leak over the weekend, or actually on Friday, early on Friday morning. Next up on China Take, some of the top trending phrases on China's most popular search engines.